From this, I just want to kind of ask you guys, do you guys think that these results are less meaningful because some teams are definitely, and this is where the argument can come in. We're like, oh, they're not taking it seriously. The pace is lower. It feels like they're trying to feel things out. I think that's a fair point. But does that make the results less meaningful?
I'm gonna go no. I think that honestly, it may be that they're trying out different tactics. I don't think that any of the players are taking the games any less seriously. So from just a competitive nature standpoint, everyone's giving 100%. Like if City had conceded in their last game, I bet you it would have lit Pep to shreds. Like he would have been lighting every player on the pitch up. Like it's. I think we're just in a weird point where because of the optics of this tournament, everyone thinks that nobody cares when I think everyone in their heart wants to care. And the fact that it's backed by FIFA, which is like the most corrupt organization that I can think of the modern times, and the fact that it's in America, which is seen as, capital greedy, like it's just a bad optical look, and it's put this weird like haze lens like straight over what we're doing. So no, I think that honestly, like the fact that Inter Miami beat Porto is such a good benchmark for where the league is at that it's important. It's important to know that these teams that are valued at like Inter Miami's valued a little higher, but squad value of 50 million can compete with Porto, who's at I looked it up. It's 345 million euros. Like that's their squad value. That wasn't even just the 11. Like the fact that Inter Miami can go toe to toe with them, that's yeah.
I think, yeah, in terms of the MLS and just even some of these Brazilian teams that are making a run for it, Brazilian and Argentine teams, they're able to compete, and I don't see any reason why that should be minimized in any way. And for any like even back to the point of they maybe the European teams don't care. They're gonna care. They're not gonna like losing to these teams. It's a pride thing. These are still professional soccer players. And to see a team like the Sounders, I just watched the highlights again recently, so it's fresh. But you mentioned Andrew earlier that they couldn't finish, but the chances were there. It was exciting. They could have had it. They created chaos and to make these chances, and all they lacked was that final finish. So in terms of them, in terms of Inter Miami and their actual positioning in the league, I think it's great. And then you see these other smaller teams making a run for it. It's awesome. And the what Dylan was saying about the haze earlier, I think is perfect because at a base, this tournament has been great. It's been a fantastic tournament. I think it's gone above expectations from what anyone thought it was going to be. And there's just this social media commentary that kind of doesn't match the whole narrative as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I would agree with that. I've seen people who are like, if they played this in Spain, it'd be so much better. Like as if the location changes anything. It's like, yeah, the location probably changes them because you have more people who would be able to travel there. That's pretty much it. And
Mm-hmm.
that goes into a whole crux of other issues. But yeah, I think that that's the social media side of it is where the echo chamber comes in, where as everybody knows on social media, negativity is amplified because it gets clicks, it gets engagement, it gets anger, right? So when you have somebody who's like, oh, I don't know about this World Cup thing, and they tweet something that says, oh, this is actually pretty good, and they get 3 likes, and then they tweet something like, oh, the Club World Cup is corrupt, and you get 45 likes, it's like, oh, well, I know where I'm going to go. It's just the way it blows up. But, you know, as much fun as it is to go online and troll that Twitter sphere with this idea that one game is a very clear barometer of a whole league success, like, did I absolutely have a tweet ready to say that Aaron Long should get into the World Cup team for the US because he shut down Chelsea? You're damn right I did. Did I delete it at the end? Yeah, because I didn't want to deal with that on the drive home. But I absolutely had it ready. But these results to me, regardless of how some teams are taking it in levels of seriousness, it can be used to measure truthfully maybe one league to the next. But I think more importantly, it speaks to the gap in quality between the lesser leagues and the top leagues, right? There is a non insignificant number of people who live in the world where they think, or maybe thought, that any Euro team can put out their reserve team and walk over any team that isn't from the top five without breaking a sweat. Like that is a legitimate conversation I see multiple people have all the time in the terrible comment sections of most tweets. Outside of our friends in Auckland, every team has made this game close. They're very tightly contested. And maybe Al Ain from UAE, I think is the other one, who kind of got beat up pretty good by Juventus. But everything else has been very, very contested, right? Whether they were playing at 100% or not, they're very contested, right? Sundowns put 3 past Dortmund. Botafogo topped PSG. Flamengo beat Chelsea. Monterrey tied Inter Milan, who was in the UEFA Champions League final. The tournament, for all the negative social media spin that it has, it's shown that the gap is not as big as social media makes it seem, regardless of how they're taking it. So, I think the way I put it is it's not miles apart, it's meters apart. And I think that's a really good thing to have personally. But Connor, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, I love the way that you phrased it before, Mila, where it was, these guys are professionals. They're gonna go out there and they're gonna play to win. They're not gonna go out there to trot around, collect a paycheck. Like, even if they're in a scenario where, maybe this game for Real Madrid doesn't necessarily mean like the most to the Real Madrid fans back in Spain, for a lot of people in the States or maybe even people that are in countries close to the States that can make the trip out, this might be like your one and only chance to see Madrid play a competitive game. Because I feel like a lot of these bigger sides that come over here will be in like a lot of preseason games, and it's like, all right, now I get to see Real Madrid or Man City play, but I'm watching like their B and C team out here, and they're kind of in preseason mode. Erling Haaland's on vacation in Mykonos right now, so he's not on this trip right now. So it's like now if I'm a Real Madrid fan, I get to like this is a chance for me to watch like Vinicius play for the first time. So it's like, if I'm a player on the field and I'm a professional, like I'm gonna try out there. Like this may be a chance for these people to see me play competitively like once in their entire lives. Like if you're a professional player, you're gonna take that seriously. That doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I have to run out there as if this is like game 38 in the season and like, Champions League is on the line if we drop points here. But it could just be, choosing the right moments to like really take it to that level, not necessarily have that level at the entirety of the game, or just like making sure that you're staying focused throughout the game, like that same level of focus that you would have in a regular game during the Premier League season. So, I do feel like the teams care, even if like a stat came out later on and it was like, oh, the pace of play in the Club World Cup was down compared to like the pace of play for all the other like top 5 leagues during their like regular seasons, which is totally fair for these players too. Like they play 60, 50, 60 games a year. God forbid they have a couple games where the pace slows down a little bit so their hamstrings don't all explode on the field. So I don't, I personally don't feel like there's any situation where you could be like, oh, the players don't care and it's showing on the field.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think there's a big, big, loud minority that is trying to make this sound like it is the end of the world that it exists. When in reality, I think it's going to stick around for a while, and they are going to have to tweak it. And we're going to get to that in a second. But before we do that,